Hello, my name is AJ Goldsby. I'm a life master from Pensacola, Florida, and I wanted to bring you today a video on a chess game. It was the game of the day the other day, I believe Wednesday, on the Chess Games website, and I wanted to bring it to you because it's an extremely interesting game. I've decided to go ahead and make a web page out of this game. But without any further ado, we're going to jump into the game. This is the game Adolf Herzog. He's about a 2300, and Petschar, P-E-T-S-C-H-A-R. This game was played in Austria, apparently the Austrian Championship in 1994. It starts off d4, d5, e3, knight f6, bishop d3, c5, c3, queen c7. White plays f4. This is known as the Stonewall attack. A lot of masters consider it to be completely unsound and would never play it in a million years, but it's really not that bad. Probably the chief drawback is that with fairly accurate moves, black can get a reasonable game and has nothing to worry about. Black goes ahead and he basically plays the Dutch reversed. So, he's playing a fianchetto, which is what white usually does against the Dutch or the Stonewall. So it's with colors reversed. The only drawback to that is black is a tempo down, but it looks to be fully playable. G6, knight f3, bishop g7, white castles, bishop f5, 8, bishop takes f5, g takes f5, knight bd2, knight bd7, knight e5, e6, white plays b3, and now black plays c takes d4, c takes d4. Thus far, the opening is completely equal. Both sides have a very good hold on the center. Both sides have, developed their pieces rapidly. White's already castled, so we're seeing the basic principles in action. I'm going to go ahead and run through the game first, and then we'll get into the analysis of the game. Queen c3, this is, black's looking to win a free rook here and also attack this pawn here. White plays knight dc4, knight takes e5, knight d6 check, king d7, f takes e5, queen takes a1, queen d3, a6, knight takes f5, rac8, bishop d2, queen takes a2, knight takes g7, rook c2, rook takes f6, rook takes d2, and now white apparently has just about a forced mate. Rook takes f7 check, king d8, queen f1, queen a3, knight takes e6 check, king c8, knight c5, rook d8. That was probably a bad move because it trapped in the black king. Rook c7 check, maybe an exclam there. King takes c7, queen f7 check, king b6. That was forced. The king just goes back to the b8 square. Simply queen takes pawn on b7, protected by the white knight as checkmate. King b6, queen takes b7 check, king a5, and now we have the position that was the problem of the day for Wednesday. I believe that was yesterday, October 29th. So this was the problem of the day for Wednesday, October 29th, 2014. It's basically white to move and win. I'll stop talking in a minute. If you want to, you can go ahead and pause the video and see if you can work out the mate. Okay, did you do like I asked? Did you pause the video? If you did, then you should be able to work out the mate. Simply queen takes a6 check, and the king runs away, king b4, king c3, and the king runs away. So the idea is you want to cut off the b4 square. So you simply play b4 check. Black must take as he has no escape squares. Queen takes b4. Now the queen is occupying black's sole escape square, so queen takes a6 as checkmate. Tuesday chess class, you can stop watching the video at this point, unless you're interested in a brief analysis, and I'm just going to run through this again rather quickly, and we're going to see if we can't pin down where black made his mistakes. Again, d4, d5, e3, knight f6, bishop d3, c5, c3, queen c7, f4, g6, knight f3, bishop g7, 7 castles, bishop f5, bishop takes f5, g takes f5, knight bd2, knight bd7, knight e5, e6, b3, c takes d4, c takes d4. Here, I thought when I was first going over this game that black should simply castle. And it turns out all the engines agree with that move. I run Deep Fritz 14, but I also checked my analysis with Houdini, Stockfish, and Ribka, and several other engines beside. So I'm fairly confident of my analysis. But it's just common sense. Black shouldn't try to get adventurous here. He should just castle before undertaking adventures, and the game would then be dead even. Black plays queen c3. He's looking to hit white's e-pawn on e3 and also to hit the rook on a1, trying to win at least a pawn. Say rook b1, queen takes e3 check. White plays knight d takes c4. Now you're probably asking yourself, what happens if White's trying to trap the queen. It's a very simple idea here. This next move is simply bishop d2, and his queen doesn't have any squares. So that's one thing, is we're trying to trap the queen. The simplest move for black is simply to play knight e4, which makes a lot of sense because that guards the vulnerable d6 square. And basically, the game is, white might have a slight edge, but it's not really that much. I really don't think white could have won the game after knight e4. But anyway, after knight dc4, black played knight takes e5. White plays check first to disrupt the black king, king d7, and then f takes e5. And now black plays queen takes a1. Black is now a whole rook ahead, but he has, his knight is on pre. Let's back up a little bit here too. Also too, there's a little bit of a trap there. A lot of my students in my Tuesday chess class, they wanted to know what happened if black had just taken the queen right away here. Queen takes a1, knight d6 check, king e7. White simply plays queen d2, and now it's very simple. If king e7, it's simply queen d2. If simply king takes d6, then bishop a3 check, and the black queen rather there on a1 is lost. So anyway, after knight dc4, black played knight takes e5. That was dubious. Knight d6 check, king d7, f takes e5, queen takes a1. Queen d3, this idea is to check the black king. He definitely does not want to allow that. a6. And now white plays knight takes f5. Again, it's the same idea that, if, for example, if pawn takes knight, queen takes pawn check, if the king goes to e7, bishop a3 check wins the black queen. So we're seeing that as a constant reminder there of some of the possibilities. Black played RAC8. That was probably not the best move. According to the computer, the best move was bishop f8, knight g3, knight g8, exclam, e4, knight e7. The main problem that black had in the game is that his pieces weren't coordinated and his king was stuck in the center. But now black's threatening to play pawn takes pawn and knight d5, and this knight's anchored in the center of the board. He can just play bishop e7, and if he can untangle, he's just a whole rook ahead and he wins easily. So that was probably the key line. And I'm going to analyze this game probably in detail on a web page. I don't want to spend too long analyzing this game. RAC8, bishop d2, queen takes a2, knight g7, and now black plays rook c2. That was a bad mistake there. Best was simply knight e4. Black should play knight e4 again there. But rook c2 was another mistake. Rook takes f6. That was a good move for white. Rook takes d2. That's, again, another mistake. Maybe here black's only try was rook e8. But rook takes d2. And now white can do everything with check. Rook takes f7 check. King d8. Now here white played queen f1. That was not the correct move, and I am going to explore this line just a little bit because it's extremely interesting, and I think the analysis is going to be quite fun. Anyway, the correct move would have been knight takes e6 check exclam, king e8, knight c7 check, king d8. I'm sure you're asking, okay, why don't you take the rook? Well, if you take the rook, white does everything with check. King takes rook, 24, queen f5 check, king g8, queen g5 check, king f8, knight e6 check, king e8, queen d8 check, king f7, queen f6 check, king e8, queen takes a check, h8 check, king d7, knight c5 check, here I played king e7. It really doesn't matter. For example, if you go king c6, you also get mated, very similar to the game. Queen to c8 check, king b6, queen takes b7 check, king a5, b4 checkmate. So in the game, though, in my analysis line, I decided to play king e7 because it looked like you were running away from the white pieces, and it also doesn't pose a problem because white has enough firepower here to finish black off. The queen and knight are a devastating combination of pieces. Queen g7 check, king there, queen d7 check, king f8, knight e6 check, king g8, and 34, queen g7 checkmate. So that was the best line. That would have been the absolute most precise line after knight e6. Well, what's wrong with queen f1? After queen f1, black could have simply played king c8, knight takes e6, king b8, and now the king can hide in the corner on a7, and I think it's a lot harder for white to win. So, and white plays h4, and I would grade that position as very unclear. It's hard to say. I spent a lot of hours looking at this with several different engines, and it's just not real clear who's going to win. I would say probably odds are black should win unless white gets really creative, but white does have two pawns and a knight on a strong square for a rook, but black has all this power doubled up on. He can triple on the G2 square. But anyway, it's a pretty wild position. But that's why the queen f1 immediately was backing up a little bit. Rook f6, rook d2, rook f7 check, king d8. This is why knight takes e6 check was so critical. It's with check, and white does everything with check, and then black could have played just like he did in the game, you know, king c8, and it would have been exactly like the game. But here he played queen f1 first, and now black missed the key line. Again, the key line was king c8, knight takes e6, king b8, exclam h4 with an unclear position. After king d8, queen f1, what black actually played was queen to a3. I'm not sure exactly why he played that move. Maybe it's to control the f8 square and prevent the check there. Maybe he thought that was going to stop everything. It doesn't really stop anything. In fact, it just misplaces the black queen. Knight takes e6 check, king c8, knight c5, which cuts off the black queen. And now black plays actually another mistake. King b8 was probably the best move, but white can just sack his rook on b7. But he plays rook d8. Now white has just a brilliant move. Rook c7 check, exclam. King takes c7. Queen to f7 check. King to b6. Queen takes b7 check. King a5, and now we get b4 check. Queen takes b4. Queen takes a6 mate. Again, I'm going to make a web page out of that, but I just didn't want this video to run too terribly long, so I'm going to cut it off there. But that pretty much concludes my analysis of the game. It was a wild, wild ride. My analysis on the webpage will show a lot more of the different things than I included here, but I just wanted to do a quick analysis and post a video on this today, mostly for my Tuesday chess class because I promised them, but also for chess fans in general. And I am going to go ahead and make a web page out of it because it's a fairly interesting game. And also, too, I told a friend, one of my former students, had emailed me that Wednesday and said, hey, take a look at this game. Wasn't it a brilliant attack, yada, yada, yada. And I took a brief look at him. And I actually called him right back and told him, hey, look, I said, I think the game is unsound. And he was like, well, you know, prove it. And so that's why I want to make a web page out of it, because I think the analysis on the web page will pretty much prove my point. It was an interesting game with an interesting attack, but both sides made a fair share of inaccurate moves, and especially black. Black, you know, he missed several opportunities there. And probably, I guess, the moral of this little story would be don't go hunting, you know, material hunting for a rook with your queen before you get castled. It's better to get the king safe and get castled first. Well, thank you for watching my video. If you like my videos, please go to the PayPal website and make a contribution. My email address is LifeMasterAJ@yahoo.com. Thank you for watching my video and have a great day.